had that up a little loud today, so let's see what's going on here today. Welcome, good afternoon, happy Saturday. Once more, I am coming to you live and in peopled person from the Starbucks at the corner of East 87th and Lexington Avenue here in New York City, and it's cold outside. Yeah, it's cold outside. You can tell because everybody is bundled up more than they are when it's 60 degrees outside here. What a week I had. I hope you had a good week. I am completing my first week with a new bed. My tax refund went to actually something I actually needed for a change, which was a new bed. I have a beautiful, beautiful double bed that I got from Futon Land here in New York City. They're online. This is not a paid advertisement. It's just that the guys. I searched for the bed online there, and then I went in to actually look at them before I made the purchase because I wanted to make sure it was what I wanted or needed. And the fellow that I dealt with at the store here in New York, Naz, was absolutely wonderful. Showed me a couple of options, showed me that the bed I wanted was going to be a pain in the ass to open and close. So I went with one that is a slightly less pain in the ass to close. Opening is easy. It's the closing that is the issue, or setting it back up so it actually looks like a sofa. But man, it is so comfortable. I just have to say that I made a good choice. I sprung for a better mattress, for a better futon, and I'm also happy that I did that. I'm going to turn my sound up a bit because I can't hear anything. I hope you can, which is neither here nor there because I don't need to hear myself anyway. So I'm looking at my what I want to talk about today. I'm probably not even going to get there, so it's gone back to work. The genius that I am left work last week an hour early because nobody bothered to inform me that I had my hours extended for Sundays. I didn't find that out till I went to do my call report, and it was like, oops, not a big issue. Just lost an hour's pay. That's all. So there is that. And what else is going? Oh, I've been telling you about one of my one of my roommates. I live in a single room occupancy building, otherwise known as a dormitory. You know, you have dorms, we have roommates and all, but everybody's got their own room, and we share kitchen and bath. And my across the hall neighbor who loves to scavenge things and then just keep them until if it's food until it rots, and then he puts it out, thinking that somebody's going to take it and cook with it. Seriously, he did this the other day with month-old chicken. Put that out thinking, oh yeah, someone's going to grab it, take it, and then everything will be good. No. So yesterday, there were some folks that were concerned about his well-being because they hadn't seen him, and so the police show up and they can't find him. They don't know where he is. So I come out. I was downstairs when I saw them come out. The guys are up on my floor, and they can hear the TV is on, door's locked. I'm banging on the door, calling out to make sure he's okay. When the maintenance guy comes up with the keys, opens the door, doesn't see anybody in there, so they're still trying to find this man because they don't know, because he's been acting erratically, and they're hoping he's okay. And they thought he might have been hiding in the basement, so they turned off all the lights in the basement. So I was asked to let them know when I saw him on the floor, and I did let them know. So my feeling is that he was hiding in his room all the time, but because there's so much crap in there, and he was probably hiding in his closet, which has probably had just enough stuff not in there that he could squirrel himself away in there. So we have more mysteries and fun stuff, and it was funnier when we were talking about it yesterday. But as I said before, this guy's a bit of a hoarder, and we're all trying to get him to, you know, clear out his room because because there's a big safety concern, you know, where we're having too much stuff and not being able to open a door fully if you need an emergency to get out or something. And this was a big issue because he couldn't open his door all the way. He still can't, but it appears he doesn't have as much stuff on the floor in the room. But the closet's another. His closet, you always know when he's got his closet open, doors open, and you can see all this crap on the floor, and him trying desperately, not to fall over it. Speaking of falling over it, there is nothing more painful than wearing flip-flops, catching it on something, and finding yourself being impaled on the corner of your sink. I have a big, lovely bruise just below the shoulder joint on my left side. It hurts. It hurts. It hurts. Oh, by the way, as I said, you're listening to At the Table here on, right now we are live on Spreaker.com/Netroots. This is a Team Netroots show on Spreaker.com, and this will be rebroadcast at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific Time on netrootsradio.com, and you can listen to us all the time on netrootsradio.com. You can also find us on the TuneIn app at Netroots Radio. So, yes, and we're celebrating a 6-year anniversary, and as I said last week, we've actually been around longer than Air America was. Thanks, Al Gore. One of the interesting things about doing a podcast, and even if you've got the everything all scripted out and plotted out and what you're going to talk about, you always find yourself running out of things to say faster than you thought you would. And that's about where I am right now. But, there was a... Just to remind, photography is not a crime. Fellow here in New York was ID checked by the police at Trump Tower because they felt he was taking too many pictures. Unlike the tourists who were taking a lot of pictures and selfies of the police officers. So they were kind of like harassing him because they thought he might be a freelance journalist or photojournalist and all that. Just to remind you folks, photography is not a crime. And here in New York, doing photography on the streets is legal. As long as you are not you can photograph the police, video the police, you can as long as you are not interfering in what they are doing. Although they may walk across the street and let you know that even though you're standing across the street from them, that you're still interfering with them. But there are a lot of good resources for photography folks. Whether or not you're a professional or not, you should know about these. And I will be posting the links to those those sites on the At the Table webpage, Facebook page. And sharing that to the netrootsradio.com's page, and sharing that all across the board to my pages. And speaking of stuff, excitement. I am going to be doing. I'll have more information for you as just keeping my Twitter, which is ATT Show, for information. But I will be just talking with. Actor-director regarding a production that he is currently directing for next week's show. So it's going to be live. It's just going to be me and somebody else talking. So it's going to be a lot more interesting for you guys, I believe. It's the way it always works. Don't you know that? Oh, and for those of you that like doing videocasts, vlogging, or uploading your pods to YouTube, where you need to have video to go along with the audio, or else they just don't like it. There's this really great little product application called Hindenburg. It's cross-platform, Mac, Windows, Linux, I believe. Whoop, see if I can find it. And it allows you to do video podcasts, especially if you don't have, if you're not on a Mac, it's very hard to do a video podcast, video cast if you don't have iMovie. But there is this really, really nice application called, like I said, for Hindenburg. It's made for radio, but you can also do chapter markings. Now, in the old GarageBand, they had this great way of doing that, where you could add images and then use those as an active link in your podcasts, and create chapters. So you have, an image saying, "Okay, I'm doing this. I'm talking about this now," and you can have a photo, an image of it, or something that that you can what is it? So some of my older podcasts that I have up on Podomatic.com, I was using, with the old version of GarageBand, I could have, images and links to things that they were talking about, or I thought was going to be. And what's really nice is that they have different types of ways of using this. You can use this if you do audiobooks. It's a great little just a lot of different applications that you can use this for. And again, I'm not getting paid to pimp this thing. I've been playing around with it. I really like it. So if you're into doing, need something that's simple, straightforward, and that brings you up with a very already set up template centerface, like you have a speaking voice, you have your interview, then you have your ambient, you have music. You can add tracks to it, but it gives you those initial 4 tracks. And then you can group, and you can, like I said, use images for chapter markings, so you can break it up into segments like you're really supposed to do. And if you do audio, there's like so many different versions of Hindenburg that is just really an amazing thing. It is not free. It has it has a 30-day trial. It's kind of expensive, but well worth playing around with it in the 30-day trial. And if you just keep looking at it, sometimes they go specials. You can get on the mailing list, whatever. But I really like this application. I really like this application. It's nice. I'm currently using the Hindenburg Journalist. So that is actually $100 digital download. So and there are other applications you can use if you want to do podcasting or audiobook recording. Audacity is great. It's freeware. And you can add tracks. It's destructive. It's non-destructive until you save. The only thing is that you can't save templates unless, well, you can if you reusing the same setups that you might use. Say you are writing an 8-track song. You create your 8 tracks and it's everything you want. You've got everything is listed out. You've got that set up. You can save when you save that. You can then save that as a you can't save it as a template. When you open it back up, you can save it as a different template, and then you still have your template, your original, and then everything is already set up for you, so you don't have to go through that all over again. That is when you're into music, something like Pro Tools First, which used to be called Pro Tools Free, is good because they give you templates, but they only allow you to have 3 saved to the cloud. You can only save to the cloud. Ableton will allow you to save templates. Cubasis, and there's a lot of different options out there for recording whatever you want to record. And I'm just very excited to be playing around with it more than I have been in the past. Also, I picked up my camera, my Canon G10, which is the G series is right between a full-on digital SLR and a point and shoot. I love this camera. It's a 14 megapixel camera. Shoots raw, so when I open those files, I've got everything in that image, like when you shoot film and you've got that negative. Every detail is in that negative, and I'm looking at getting an adapter for it, so I can use my zoom lens on it and buy some other lenses on it. Take out my Canon, my EOS 20D, my 20D, which I also love. It's an older version. It's an older digital SLR. It doesn't do video, but that's okay. I don't need a video camera. My G10 does 720p. So, and I have other things that do high full HD video and and a phone that can do up to 4K depending on the amount of space I want to use up. I don't have that much space left on my on my phone because it's only 16 gigabytes, and man, that fills up really quickly no matter how hard you try to not put stuff on it. If you got like the Facebook application on it, it takes up a lot of space on the drive with caching out, and you can't clear it. It's really a pain in the ass to not be able to clear out the caches on your applications on your phone. It'd be really nice if that could be done in the apps, but you cannot. You cannot. A kid has just came by with the coolest dinosaur scooter helmet I have ever seen. And, it's like a really kind of cool helmet. So I still need to get a helmet and my bike tuned up so I can start pedaling off, burning up those calories, because I'm actually working on that. Using YouTube videos that have you get your heart rate up and you walk a mile in 15 minutes and you burn all those calories. And I actually tried to do the 2-mile video walk in place yesterday. Didn't make it past a mile, but I'll get there. I will get there, because when you get your heart rate up and you're burning calories, you will continue to burn those calories. So I was actually almost into the cardio endurance factor yesterday with how I got my heart rate up, and it's just really, really cool to do that sort of thing. I have but one pet peeve about the broadcast app that I'm using, is that they don't let you import anything audio from other than iTunes, which means if you find something that you want, you cannot use it. You can't play it. Which is the annoying part of the Spreaker app. Other than that, it's a very simple application to use for your podcasting and all that good rambly stuff that I'm doing right now, because I'm looking out the window and people are dragging chairs across the floor, and I really can't hear myself. But that's okay, because I really don't need to hear myself, because I can hear myself just fine. And I can tell that I'm talking because I can see the meters going. Yes, the weather has been... Oh, yes. Donald Trump and his tweet storms. Oh, goody. What are we doing here? Oh, yes. Almost everything I need to have up... It's just crazy. I'm going to open up Twitter, and, well, if you haven't been paying attention to Twitter, Our president, with the tweet storm he's been letting loose over everything, seems to you're quite welcome. I'm sharing my table with somebody who doesn't mind that I look like I'm talking to myself. With the tweet storm, somebody he's upset that they wired that. He thinks it was his phones that were tapped when it was probably somebody from in his building from Russia that had the phones tapped. But he's like really, I see a lot of people laughing about this meltdown. But the thing is that they're, unlike Richard Nixon, who was having a nervous breakdown over the break-in at the Watergate Hotel, there was people there to let people who have their fingers on the buttons, that they were to ignore the president's orders to push those buttons. I don't believe there is anybody on President Bannon's staff that would do that. I really don't, and that's what's most frightening to me about his meltdowns. Because what comes out of the White House Twitter feed is not as important as what comes out of his personal feed. And there's been a lot of because he doesn't think he has to archive the tweets that come from his personal account for the next 4 years when he does. It's part of the official record. And besides, screen grabs are wonderful things. You can delete, but they still live on and on and on. And in fact, Snopes has already captured his accusations against President Obama about, sabotaging him. But that is actual paranoia, not narcissistic or anything else. He goes beyond what Richard Nixon ever went through with his hatred. To blame your predecessor for everything, and to be so. This is the other thing that when Rachel Maddow brought this up the other day on her show, that the mere fact that Trump was tweeting about the warrant, that there are transcripts, says what means that there actually was a FISA warrant that was issued, because constitutionally and by law, the NSA has to cut off listening to a foreign phone call when an American comes on the line. So if there are transcripts of discussions between Flynn and other people from Trump's administration or even his campaign staff, that meant there was a FISA warrant. And the fact that Trump is talking about it, it means there actually was a FISA warrant, and which means he became aware of the FISA warrant right after he was sworn in as president. There's also the issue of this Russian oligarch by the name of Rybolovlev, who calls himself the fertilizer king, who keeps showing up everywhere Donald Trump shows up, even during the campaign. So the question is, what is their connection? Are they, is he Putin's emissary? Is he Trump's handler? And I need to also speak out about this horrific concept of separating women, children, and from their mothers. One of the things, and it is comparable to what the Germans did when the trains of Jews and Roma arrived at the camps. They separated families, and they looked at those who looked sick and separate, and then they culled from there. If you were sick or too old or too young, you were put to death immediately. If you were just the right ages, you were put to slave labor and slowly starved to death. And the horror of putting these children without their parents into private prisons is that you know damn well there is going to be an uptick of child predators applying for jobs at these prisons, at these camps. Because there's going to be no one to defend these children, no one to listen to them. And I will not be at all surprised to learn that some children have disappeared because they were trafficked out of those camps. Here, I said it. I'm creating my own damn Pizzagate. I firmly believe that there is going to be wholesale sexual abuse of children because of Donald Trump's immigration policy of separating children from their parents. Said it. And I was, reading about, then there the uptick in anti-Semitism New York City alone, there has been a 94% increase in anti-Semitic threats and attacks since Donald Trump was elected president here in New York City. Now, you've all heard about the jilted boyfriend who was arrested for 7 of the bomb threats. Turns out that he was trying to frame his ex-girlfriend for that, so there's even more fun to that. The guy worked for The Intercept until they fired him for making up stories, making up facts and comments, and and The Intercept isn't all that liberal to begin with. Yes. One thing you have to remember about this, he was only arrested for 7 of the bomb threats. And he was trying to frame his girlfriend for them. The complaint is up online, and I read it, and he was actually trying to frame his girlfriend for it. And say, for them, saying, she's doing this in my name, and, I'm innocent, and, He was also fired from The Intercept for making up facts and stuff, So keep that up. It's kind of like white people who beat themselves up and then mistakenly, like that woman who beat herself up and then engraved that B backwards in her face. Yeah. So that guy. So the guy who was trying to frame his ex-girlfriend for the bomb threats was trying to gaslight her as well, like making her think she's crazy. So it's. And you notice they only talk about the crazy ex-girlfriends. They never talk about the crazy ex-boyfriends. I think there was a good reason that she broke up with you, dude. But, it's... I'm sharing my table with a lovely woman. So I'm sort of like talking to you, talking to her at the same time, so it just might seem a little... That's why if you're like going, why does it sound like she's holding a conversation with someone who's not answering? Because the other party's not answering. But... we also had an incident here in New York where a second-generation New Yorker was attacked by a man screaming, "Get out of my country." Now, she's Puerto Rican. Puerto Rico's part of America. So you're Puerto Rican American, you're American. You're an American citizen. It sort of makes you want to run up to white people with an umbrella and start screaming at them to go back to their country, Get out of my country. Go back to whatever part of Europe you came from. Sure. I'm still laughing about the fact that I had my ancestry DNA done, and I am more European than the little right-wing troll who trolled me during the campaign. He's only 98% European. I'm 100%, and I'm Jewish. But what's really cool, what I really like about doing the ancestry DNA thing, and I believe I probably talked about this last week too, is that I both my brother and I have connected up with cousins, with family members, and it's just so good. Just finding out more about my family. Discovered that one family member actually in colonial Georgia. My brother just sent me a copy of forwarded an email he got from the records keeper in The Hague regarding our grandparents, our father's parents, and I have to say that reading that I started to cry because number one, the street he lived on doesn't exist anymore. It's where the Peace Palace in The Hague is standing. And having a little bit more of your family to hold on to know about is always a wonderful thing, and it's just a really great. I've been doing with the family tree since the mid-'70s, and it's always been an adventure finding out about your great-grandparents. Like my great-grandfather emigrated from England to America, so that was always, and finding that out, talking with my cousin, saying, "Oh yes, your great-grandfather was the brother of our great-grandfather." So it's always nice to connections is always good. Is always really, really wonderful when you're that and finding out more about your family. Got a third cousin who invited us to check out the family tree. And do people, if you really want something that's a real adventure, trace your family history. Seriously, trace your family history. It's you really never know what you're going to find. When my cousin told me about the family member in colonial Georgia, he was there during the time when Georgia was the buffer between Spanish Florida and the rest of the English colonies, and the Crown actually outlawed slavery, banned slavery in the colony of Georgia, because every able-bodied man needed to be able to bear arms, and my ancestor, this particular ancestor, was a slaveholder until that time, but I can't find a record, and it remained banned even after the threat of Spanish Florida was taken care of. But despite bans, sadly, slavery crept back in, partially due to the wars that the Crown was fighting, and they'd have to press the white boys off the farm. But it showed that the country was capable of being equal. Think about that. State of Georgia, the colony of Georgia, was the first colony to ban slavery, to have Africans bearing arms in defense of their nation. I have friends that live in Brunswick, Georgia, one of whom is a descendant of is a Gullah Geechee. He's a descendant of the freed slaves that followed Sherman as he marched to Savannah and showed us the African military academy where African Americans were trained in arms, and so the idea, I think, in spite of the sad fact that slavery crept back into Georgia, I think there is one part of Georgia's history that they all can be proud of, and that is when black and white Georgians stood together to defend the colonies prior to the American Revolution. So again, it's you're not always happy with what you find when you trace your family tree. In fact, I was very much surprised to discover that there were members of my family that were colonials. I'd like to know more find out if his descendants were Tories or revolutionaries. That's something I want to check, find out. Once I find out where in Georgia I've got friends there, I can check that out. I'm going to be in Atlanta in August for Netroots Nation, so I'm going to see if I can get some information while I'm there on that and share that with you. That's why we find Who Do You Think You Are and the other program, genealogy program, so interesting, because we get to see people's reactions to finding out who they are descended from and incidences in their families' lives. Like my grandmother was the second white child born in Curtis, Nebraska. She was also the first and only Jewish child born in Curtis, Nebraska. When my when her family left Curtis, Nebraska, all the Jews left Curtis, Nebraska. There still aren't any Jews in Curtis, Nebraska, for no other reason that it was probably too cool to live there. But knowing that, that he ran the general store, he ran the post office. He had my great grandparents had no problems going to different churches in Curtis on Sundays, despite their Jewishness. They were part of the community. My grandmother was educated at a Catholic school because that's how you did. I also discovered after my grandmother's passing that she translated books into Braille. She was this woman we never. She had these talents we never knew about. She never told us about. And so again, it's always amazing what you learn about your family. My grandfather was a tailor. He was a gentleman's tailor, a high-priced gentleman's tailor. Yet when he passed away in Chicago, he had a Union funeral. My mother told me about that the streets were crowded with members of the, ILGW, which means that despite his status as a gentleman's tailor, he was a Union man. And it makes me very proud to say that. It makes me, know the admiration and the deep respect that people had for my father, for my grandfather, my grandmother, my mother, my father. That is the legacy that you want to continue, respect people, respecting who you are as a human being, As Harlan Ellison said in Paladin of the Lost Tower, once you forget, you are truly dead. Immortality is being remembered. So we think of all these people that have passed from our lives and into history, and we remember them, and then we bring them back from their limbo of all the people. I discovered yesterday that there was a Cherokee woman who was a hidden figure. She was the first Native American engineer. She worked at Lockheed, and she was part of that, getting people to. She was part of that great behind the scenes, woman power that got men to the moon and back, into orbit and back. And it's energizing to have that in your life. You're listening to At the Table here on netrootsradio.com, and I was going to go into some words about toxic masculinity and all, people on the right are going, oh, look, liberals are ugly to women, they're not. I mean, toxic masculinity is learned behavior and experiential behavior, because you don't start out hating someone. It becomes learned. You're taught to hate, or your experiences teach you that, to mistrust. Or, everybody. Toxic masculinity is red pill. The guy that was trying to frame up his ex-girlfriend. That's toxic masculinity. He worked for The Intercept, not necessarily a liberal newspaper website, no matter what you want to think. It's very much anti-Democratic Party, anti-Clinton, because Glenn Greenwald has a bug up his ass over prior to the legalization of same-sex marriage, which is why he went to Brazil, where they had said it's legalized it. But that did not stop Greenwald during the Snowden affair from, throwing his partner under the bus by having him mule stolen materials for him in Britain. That's how I've always taken The Intercept with grains of salt. Look for verifying links in the stories. That's how you can tell the difference between real news and unreal news, is links. Are there links that take you to the original articles, that give you the sources for what they're saying? If they're not there, huge grain of salt time. You will probably find those on hysterical conspiracy theory websites. Even if you're at sites with links, check them out. Check the sources out before you tweet that link or share that link. And what I do when I see a story on a website and there's a link, I will go back to that link and tweet that and share that original link. And that's the best way to do it. It's the only way to do it, really. So, because that way you're getting source material. And that's the one thing, with whether you're blogging or anything, you always need to cite your sources, and it makes everybody happy, because then people can go back and see if you're just clickbaiting the link, if you summarize the story right, excerpt, it's always better to do that way. It's like sampling when in music or video. There's a website for fair use of video and fair best practices. You can't claim fair use if you're not, you can claim fair use. You can use a few seconds without clearance. I'll also post that link up on my website for the best practices. And it's all about not just throwing things together. I don't care if you're a conspiracy theorist. At least throw back links to something other than Alex Jones. I'll see stuff, that's a clickbait link, and I will read it, and then I'll go see, if they've got the link to that, I'll go see what the link says. There was an clickbait post on Facebook about somebody who was being forced to drain his pond because there's no permit, and the state of Oregon is claiming rights to the watershed around his property. Now, he bought the property. The pond was already there. So somewhere along the line, He can probably get that grandfathered in because it's needed for wildlife and all of that. So there's an use for this. It's again, it's the hysterical. They're trying to claim they own that the state owns all the water. No, they don't. You can have a rain barrel. You just have to fucking maintain it. You can collect rainwater. They're not. It falls on your property. You own. The water. It's your water. You can save it. Just don't drink it because it's going to be filthy. Unless you boil it, filter it, whatever, use it for, But there's a lot of hysteria over a lot of things, and you need to always check for the original sources on that. And that's the other thing. Trump's tweet about President Obama placing a wiretap on his phone. He used his 2 P's in tap. So, we know this man has spelling issues. If he doesn't read, I'm going to say, if he has issues reading, I'm going to say he's probably dyslexic. He just doesn't want to admit it, but he can read. So it's, I'm just here doing my thing. Just, where was I? Oh, yeah. I was going to read you stuff. Let's see here. There it is. I don't have what I wanted to talk about here with me. But, I'm going to talk a little bit about gaslighting. I mentioned this earlier. So, you want to, gaslighting. Gaslighting is telling somebody, oh, no, that's not right. That's not, no, you're not, no, that's always been there, even if it hasn't been. It's making small adjustments in the environment to try and make somebody think they're going crazy. That is the original term of gaslighting, and that comes from the movie Gaslight. Actually, it's called Angel Street, in which basic plot line is husband tries to convince his wife she's insane by manipulating small elements of the environment, moving things around. Something was there that wasn't there before. The play. Charles, if you want to see what I'm talking about, the movie, the Charles Boyer, Ingrid Bergman 1944 film Gaslight. And you don't call somebody crazy when you're gaslighting them. He manages, somebody who is trying to make you think you're crazy is not going to tell you you're crazy. They're going to tell you other things like, oh, that's always been there. That was never there. Whom? What? You addict the person to what they're saying to you. And then you remember every mistake. So in essence, I'm going to say that we're not being gaslighted by this current administration, but rather our own administration's gaslighting themselves, because they keep trying to manipulate their perceptions, and people aren't buying it. The people who are, they're not buying it either, because they just don't care. That's the whole thing. That's why there's not a bigger uproar from Trump's fan base. They don't care. They really don't care. They could care less that he's lying, all they care about is that he's going to make America white again. And got news for you, white people who think they are white. They're going to come for you too. because it's been the wealthy who has made the determination of whiteness. From the time they made the indentured servants and the poor people white after the Nat Turner Rebellion, to making the Irish white in the 19th century, to making Germans, Italians, and Jews white in the 20th century. It's all to buffer you, to make you vote against your best interests, your own interests, because it makes you better than people who aren't you, or so you think. But, okay, so this is my other proposition. If we're going to deport every illegal, undocumented immigrant who came over the Texas border, came over the southern border, who's going to build that wall? It's been the use of undocumented labor that broke the labor unions. So tell me, who's going to build that wall? You're not going to get undocumented laborers to build that wall. You sure as hell ain't going to get union laborers to build that wall. And it's time to remove the indentured, to completely abolish the slavery in the 13th Amendment by abolishing the use of incarcerated individuals as slave labor. Right? That was the 13th. That was the workaround for the abolition of slavery, the 13th Amendment. You couldn't publicly own slaves, but you could privately own slaves if they were incarcerated. So it's going to be interesting all the way around how that's going to be done. And if you have not seen the documentary 13, you need to see it. 13th, you need to see it because it explores that issue of the 13th Amendment. And it's twisted in the way it's twisted and it's just twisted. Again, it was to appease Southerners. And it's time to tell the Southern states, fuck you, we're not supporting you anymore. Stand on your own 2 feet. And if last night on the Late Show with Stephen Colbert, there was this really awesome Kuwaiti American comedian, Real. Oh man, what's his name? I'm kind of stupid here. His Twitter handle is Real Moamer. Mohammed Amer. He's Kuwaiti American. Incredibly funny, brilliant stand-up comedian. You need to check him out. You need to follow him on Twitter. He's absolutely hilarious and just amazingly funny. And you can, if you catch his set on YouTube and The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, his set is just, it's funny. It stands up. It's so good. It's the thing I like about The Late Show. He's bringing on comedians, stand-ups. What I would love to see him do is expand that he brings a stand-up on and then has enough time to invite him over to sit down and chat. That would be just simply awesome to do. And, oh, wow. I've actually managed to blither on for nearly an hour. I'm like really impressed with myself. So I'm going to ask y'all to say thank you to everybody listening here on SpreakerRadio.com, and tune in. And if you're listening tonight, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern on NetRootsRadio.com. Following the show at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, 4 o'clock Pacific, is Katie Speaks with Katie Klaubish. So stay tuned and listen to her. And thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.